Do you have any special prayer for your son? He's 3 years old. They are seeking the blessings of all the Vaishnavas, deities, so that their son can lead a devotee life, whole life, and become pure devotee. Hari Bo. Thank you very much. So our next sponsor is Inisha and Shaha. If you are here, please come with your family. We have to do this faster because we have so many sponsors. Please come forward. Please come forward faster. Inisha. Happy birthday to you. Hare Krishna to you. Hare Krishna to you. Hare Krishna Inisha to you. Hare Krishna to you. Hari Bo. Then the next we have Runa Shaha. Ayusha Shaha. Ayusha. Yeah, Ayusha. So please, we all pray for them, for their well-being. So please raise your hand and please chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next one we have is Ayush Roy. To Ayush Roy, okay? Remember the name Ayush Roy. Okay? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Ayush. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Ayush. Hare Krishna to you. Hare Krishna to you. Hare Krishna to you. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Mr. Surendra, you have any special prayer for your blessings from okay. They want the blessing from all the Vaishnavas. Hari Bol. Okay, next sponsor we have is Gaurav Prabhu and Amrit Prabhu. You are here, please come on the front. Please come on the front. And another sponsor we have, next sponsor is Srivas Prabhu. If you are here, please give it, okay? Biggest blessing. So they have a new child. So please everyone raise your hand and bless them. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Arun is Samarada, Amit Prabhu is not here. Okay, please extend our blessing to them. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So next, Srivas Prabhu, if you are here, please, we have to sing another happy birthday for her. So please chant, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday Anita, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, Hare Krishna to you, Hare Krishna to you, Hari Bol. Do you have any special prayer for you? Okay, she wants the blessings of the Vaishnavas and devotees, and she has something nice to say to us.
I would like to grow in Krishna consciousness and be a scientist.
Thank you.
Okay.
प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंज राधा कुंजी गोविंद वृंदावन धाम की जय धाम की जय जगन्नाथ पुरी की जय गंगोमाई की जय जगन्माई की जय तुलसी देव की जय भक्ति देव की जय समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय all glories to you Samudra all glories to you Samudra all glories to you Samudra Gaur Premanande This is an auspicious opportunity to check your mobile, see that it's in silent mode. If your child has an on-off switch, please switch it off. Children who may not be very interested in going to these lectures might want to be with their friends outside. I do spend a lot of my time these days in Africa, and any children who make noise I'll take with me. Tasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Shashurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kata Mahinam Tadhati Shapadhantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatatanakamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Shadrajatam Sahana Radhanatam Tam Sativam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Pravijanasaditam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Radham Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakantamanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Niyamambo Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Mosute Tapta Kanchana Gauraki Radhe Vrindavanesi Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Also, please no photography and bright lights and all of that during the talk. It's distracting. Sorry about that. I have to admit to being a little bit out of touch with the official holiday of Thanksgiving. I haven't bothered to do my research and remind myself of what it's all about, something to do with pilgrims who came from the old world because of religious persecution, and they arrived here and went through considerable hardships, but were thankful to God for what they had received. This reminds me, by the way, of taking it completely out of the American context, of a story told to me by the publisher BTG in Bombay. This concerns the World Cup, which I think is soccer. Okay. And the match was held in Bombay. It was down to the final match to determine who would take the title. And the match was between India and Pakistan. That's cricket. Okay, I'm glad someone's straightening me out. So the cricket title and the final match was being held between Pakistan and India. And you can imagine how high the feelings were running on both sides. There's all sorts of political pride, national pride, sports pride, every other kind of pride. So the match took place and Pakistan lost. India won. So naturally everyone on the Indian side was in ecstasy. And the Pakistani team would now have to slink back to Islamabad with their tail between their legs, having failed to achieve victory. So naturally the commentators were there interviewing everybody and commenting and so on. And the commentator found the captain of the Pakistani team and began to interview him. And the Pakistani captain began by saying, first, and now consider he has to go back to Pakistan and defeat. He began by saying that first I would like to thank Allah for all that He has done for us. Then, let's go. And then they got on to the interview and talked about whatever it is that cricket is all about. And then the station interviewed the captain of the Indian team. And he began by saying that, you know, it wasn't just me, but we had a great team and everybody gave their full energy and there was great teamwork and so on. And not a word about God, Krishna or God, nothing. So the point is that regardless of one's outward religious designation, whether it be Hindu or Muslim or Christian or anything else, one is meant to develop one's consciousness of God, one's realization of one's gratitude to God. That's the real business of the human being. Without that God consciousness or Krishna consciousness, your life is a failure. The Nine Deho Deha Bhajandaroke Kashtam Kama. This human life is not meant for sense gratification. Kamasya nendriya priti or lava viveti yavata. Jivasya tattva jigyasa narto yas chena arhati. The human life is meant for spiritual realization. Kamasya non-indriya priti. Indriya priti, priti means love. And indriya means the senses. So, in this world, we're full of love. We love whatever will satisfy our senses. Something to see, something to hear, something to taste, something to smell, something for the mind. Indriya priti. Kama means desire. Well, the whole world is moving on desire to please the senses. But Bhagavatam says, Kamasya na indriya priti. That's not what human life is for. Lavo jiveta yavata. One should just be satisfied with whatever one needs. Or lava. Lava means what comes naturally without too much struggle. Enough to keep body and soul together, enough to live. Lava jiveta yavata, that much. This, of course, is bad news for the merchants who've made Thanksgiving an important holiday. But this is the message of the Bhagavatam, as much as we need. When Lord Vamandev went to Bali Maharaj in the guise of a beggar, Bali Maharaj asked him, so what would you like? And Lord Vamandev said, you can give me 3 paces of land. Well, Bali Maharaj said, 3 paces of land, you seem to be a very inexperienced young boy. I'm the king, you can ask me for so much. And you're asking for 3 paces of land only. So, Vamandev said, yes, anyone who wouldn't be satisfied with 3 paces of land wouldn't be satisfied if he got all 3 worlds. So of course it's ironic because Lord Vamandev is Rukram with his 3 paces. He took the whole world, the whole universe. But still there's a serious message there that we should learn to be satisfied with what we receive by nature's way. Yes. This is the secret of happiness, actually. To be satisfied with yadrishcha lava santushta. Manvati told me once. One should learn to be satisfied with what comes. Because if we ask for more, if we're always wanting more, there's no limit. We'll never be satisfied. In the Bible it said that one who wants silver will never be satisfied with silver. However much he gets, it's not enough. And therefore the mind is always agitated. Elsewhere it said, Yukta karma palam tyaktva shantimapnoti naishtiki. Ayukta kamakarena palisakta vipajita. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that the person who's situated in Krishna consciousness, yukta, karma palatatra, he gives up the results of his work. Well, that's not very attractive, is it? Why are we working? We're working to get something. And you want me to give up the fruit of my work, karma phala? Krishna says yes. Yukta karma palachakra shantim apnoti naishtika. By giving up the results of our work, we get real peace of mind. Shantim apnoti naishtika. We get peace. And ayukta, the person who's not connected with Krishna, the person who's not in Krishna consciousness, kamakare, who's acting just to satisfy his own desires. Karma, ayukta kamakarena, pale sakto nipadyate. He becomes entangled in working hard for sense gratification, working hard to get something, then protecting what he's got, then lamenting over losing what he's got, dealing with those who are envious of what he's got, and never kripyanti neha kripana. No, what is that? Yes. Then kripyanti neha kripana bahudukavada. Tripyanti neha kripana. They're never satisfied. That's what's tripyanti. Those who are always looking for material enjoyment, always attached to sense gratification, are described as misers. And they're never satisfied. Tripyanti neha. Rather, bahutuka bhajam. Misery after misery after misery. And we see this practically. With, so many rich men, and they're miserable. They're miserable. They try this, they try that. Alcohol, women, anything. And still not satisfied. You can see it practically, just as a simple observation. We're now in the richest country in the world. No, it's not the richest country in the world. There are places like Qatar where per capita income is out over the top. But generally speaking, America's a super rich country, and we have all kinds of conveniences and things. Anything you want, you press the button, and the next morning it's on your desk. So everything. Whatever kind of sense gratification we want, it's available. More so than in other countries. Certainly more than these small third world countries, more even than big countries like India. Certainly more than India had 30 or 40 or 50 years ago. Now India is gradually catching up. But still not catching up. Narrowing the gap. So with all of this high standard of enjoyment, Americans should be the happiest people in the world. When you go out on the street, you should see people with glowing faces and sweet, contented smiles on their face, happy and grateful for everything they have, and not feeling the pinch of needing anything more. And that's not what we see. That's not what we see. Rather, people are suffering. I have a student who used to work for Merck, a big pharmaceutical company. So I asked him, what are they working on? Find out a little bit here and there. What are they working on? They're especially focusing on antidepressants. Antidepressants. Because some inordinate number, like 2 out of 5 Americans, is clinically depressed. And the other 3 are just ordinarily depressed. Why depressed? They have everything. In the 1960s, we had all these young people who came from rich families, and they went to live like gypsies in the street. They weren't happy. Tripyanti nehakripana. Because the person who isn't happy with what comes by God's arrangement won't be happy if he gets all the 3 worlds. Because happiness doesn't come from sense gratification. Sense gratification means pleasing the senses of this body. And pleasing the senses of this body doesn't please the soul. Srila Prabhupada gave the example of a woman who had a bird in a cage and was cleaning the cage very nicely, but never fed the bird. So do you think the bird was very happy? Finally the bird just died. No amount of attention given to the cage will satisfy the needs of the bird within. But the modern society is very avidly attending to the needs and wants of the senses and neglecting the person whose senses, to whom the senses belong. Neglecting both persons to whom the senses belong. My senses belong to me because I'm the proprietor of this body. Kshetragya. In the Bhagavad Gita, living being is called Kshetragya, or the owner of the body, the person whose body it is. And I don't realize my identity. I'm simply thinking of the Kshetra of the body, and not the person within the body. Or maybe I do something for the mind because I am falsely identified with the mind. But that's also just the outward body, the subtle body. And I forget the Kshetragya, the person within. And Kshetragyam chapi mamditi, sarya kshetreshu bhava. And there's also another Kshetragya, another owner of the body. The difference is that I know about my one body, I'm in charge of one body. But that Kshetragya is in charge of all the bodies. Sarya kshetreshu bhava. That's Krishna. Prabhupada gives the example that you have your apartment, and you know about your apartment, you're concerned with your apartment. But the landlord knows about all the apartments, and is factually the owner of all of them. I say my apartment, but actually the apartment ultimately belongs to the landlord. So there are 2 owners of the body, 2 owners of these senses. Myself as soul, and the Supreme Self, Krishna. And yukta means that the individual self has revived his eternal relation with the Supreme Self. Yukta karma phala tyaktva. Such a person isn't attached to the things that he gets. He renounces them. Now, Srila Rupa Goswami explains what renounces means. In some philosophies, they think that they realize that everything is false and they just give everything up as false. But Srila Rupa Goswami says that this is dry renunciation, artificial renunciation, or false renunciation. Because when did these things belong to me so that I can renounce them? Suppose I come and I say, I renounce BB&T Bank. What is the meaning of that? When did BB&T belong to me? So this is false renunciation. It didn't belong to me. So if I claim it as my own, I'm a thief. And if I give it up as false, then I'm a fool. I have to use that property or give that property to the actual proprietor. That's Krishna. Just like if I find a wallet, big fat wallet with a lot of money in it, lying on the temple room floor. If I look around a little bit and then put it in my pocket, I'm a thief. And if I just leave it sitting there, then I'm a fool. But I have to find the person to whom the wallet belongs. Then that's right. So the owner of everything is Krishna. Sarva Loka Maheshwara. He owns all the worlds. And Srila Rupa Goswami says real renunciation means to use everything in Krishna's service. Anasaktasya vishaya, without attachment. Not that I do everything for sense gratification. I say, oh, this is for Krishna's service. That's cheating or hypocrisy. Yeah, I'm going to the bar for Krishna's service. But anasaktasya vishaya, without attachment to sense gratification, yatarvam upayanjuta, when one uses everything properly. And one uses everything properly. Nirbandha Krishna Sambrante. Yukta Vairagya. This doesn't belong to me, it belongs to Krishna. And therefore it should be used for Krishna. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as the ideal householder, expressed this understanding by saying, Manasa deha geha yog kichumor arpilu tuapane Nandakishore. My dear Nandakishore, Krishna, I offer everything to you. I offer everything at your lotus feet. What is that? Manasa. The first thing is my mind. The materialistic civilization cultivates distraction of the mind to everything but Krishna. Television, video games, amusement parks, fiction, novels, newspapers, this, that. But Savadmana Krishna Padadavidya, Maharaj Ambarish set the example that he first of all fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, I offer my mind to Krishna. That's called Krishna consciousness. When the mind is offered to Krishna, it becomes peaceful and happy. And when the mind is in the fire of sense gratification, it's never satisfied. What is that? Dushpurena Analenacha. When I agitate my mind, pumping up the material desires, then I'll never be satisfied, and the desires will all just burn my mind. And therefore the world is dissatisfied, greedy, miserable. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Manasa and Deha, I have this body, that also I dedicate to your service. Manasa, Deha, and Geha. Geha means home. The common saying is, the man's home is his castle. And we act like that. That we want to have a home and a bigger home, and if possible a castle would be very nice. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, no, my home is an ashram. My home is a place for doing bhajan. My home is the place that belongs to Krishna. Just as here in the temple, the deity is the center of service, and everyone else is a servant of the deity. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, my house is also like that. The proprietor of the house is not me, it's the deity, it's the Lord. And the people in the house are not my servants, they're Krishna's servants. And I'm also Krishna's servant. And therefore, what should be going on in the house? Service to Krishna. To cook for Krishna, to speak of Krishna, to glorify Krishna. We'll maintain the house, but we'll maintain it for Krishna's pleasure. We can invite other people to come, and we'll have kirtan. And we'll read something from Bhagavad Gita. And it's an ashram, brahmacharya ashram and grahastha ashram. A place for spiritual culture. Manasa deha geha, yo teacher, whatever I have. Teacher means like whatever little bit I might have. Arpilu tuapade nandakishwar, I offer that to you. This is called Krishna consciousness. In the Bhagavad Gita also it said, Yagyashishtasana santa muchyante sarvakil visai undute te tukam papa yekasachakakara. While eating, the materialist prepares food for his own sense gratification and becomes entangled because every bite is actually the results of material activities disguised as food. And he has to accept the simple reactions, the material reactions for everything that went into it. But the person who offers his food to Krishna, muchyante sarva kilvishai, is actually freed from the results of all sinful reactions. Therefore, yagyarta karmano yatra loko yam karmano. Everything should be done for yajna. Yajna means sacrifice, and yajna means Krishna. Yajna art. For the sake of Krishna, we should act. We don't have to. But if we don't, loko yam karmano, to the extent that we act for some other purpose, we'll become entangled. We may have our plan for how we'll be happy by this or by that, by some, this much for Krishna, this much for me, this much for Krishna, this much for me. But this much for me will be the source of my entanglement, the source of my repeated birth and death, the source of my unhappiness. And therefore everything should be done for Krishna. Everything should be offered to Krishna. Then what about me? How will I eat? How will I live? How will I be happy? No, I'll be more happy if I offer my food to Krishna, it doesn't mean that Krishna will take everything to Goloka Vrindavan and now I'll starve. But Krishna is very kind. Krishna Baladoya Mahikar. He gives everything as prasadam. Now you take better food. Now it's not food anymore, it's spiritual food, prasadam. Similarly, everything. The whole life is dedicated to Krishna. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the example. How he dedicated everything for the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At the same time, carrying on the work of a responsible magistrate and having a big family, everything. But those things were not separate. I have my job and I have my Krishna. Everything was dedicated for the service of Krishna. If I'm working, I'll get some money and I'll use it to maintain Krishna's household. Just like Satsvarup Maharaj in the beginning, he was, when he first joined, he was working for the welfare department in New York City. And there were many boys who joined, not many, a group who joined Srila Prabhupada, and they would stay in the ashram and they would have the benefit of Prabhupada's association. And Satsvarup Maharaj was going to work with the karmis. So he thought that I'll give up this karmi job and be like the other boys. I'll live with the Swami and get the spiritual benefit. And Prabhupada, of course, set him straight that because he was doing valuable service, the other boys weren't paying the rent. It wasn't a material activity because the result was going to Krishna. The result was going to Krishna. And therefore it was spiritual action. It's not that spiritual activity means only sitting in the temple and doing japa. But it means doing everything, but in Krishna consciousness. Mama Nusmara Yudhyacha. Lord Krishna told Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, think of me. Mama Nusmara, all the time, think of me. Yudhyacha, and fight. You're a Kshatriya, your duty is fighting, do that. But do it in Krishna consciousness. So our Krishna consciousness movement is meant for reviving this understanding in the heart of every living being. It doesn't matter whether one is Christian or Hindu or Muslim or something else, but every human being at least should understand his real nature as a spirit soul. Every human being should understand his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And every human being should make advancement in the science of living in that relationship and go back home, back to Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to push forward this sublime program. Srila Prabhupada later came to bring this program to the West and eventually to the whole world. And we should take advantage of it fully. Thank you. Are there some questions?
In the spirit of being thankful, should we be thankful for the body that Krishna has given us, or should we condemn it?
Should we be thankful for the body that Krishna has given us? Well, you can go either way with it. On one side, we can think that Krishna is very kind. He's given me this human form of life in which I can cultivate spiritual realization, and also in a rich nation where I don't have to spend my whole time struggling, and with good education and with the good fortune of the association of devotees and the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. So how fortunate we are to have this life. On the other side, we should think that we're so stupid that we wanted to enjoy independently from Krishna, and therefore we've got these rotten bodies full of troubles and miseries, which finally deteriorate and turn to rubbish. So both points of view are possible.
You were explaining how Satsang are the others, they were this relationship of. Now we see that whenever one gets the association of pure devotee, advanced devotee, he makes very rapid progress. But in the absence of such arc, that kind of association may not be so easily or readily available. Most people.
Whenever one gets the association of the devotee, he makes rapid progress, but that association is not always available. Therefore, Satsang Maharaj thought, let me quit my job and get the association of this advanced devotee. And Prabhupada said no. Because association doesn't just mean sitting there face to face. Real association is by service. Just like Srila Prabhupada. Many of his godbrothers got so much association with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. They were living at the ashram. They would get hours and hours and days and days and days of this association. And our Srila Prabhupada only got, not so much, some hours put together, or maybe added up, you get a few days. Not so much. And yet, he spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Guru Mukha Padma Bhakya Chitete Kuriyaka, because he took the words of his spiritual master to heart and served them. On the material platform, association is by proximity. But on the spiritual platform, association is by service. So we can, even Krishna, he's saying we're meant to be servants of Krishna, but Krishna's not here. Krishna's in Goloka Vrindavan. But we can serve Krishna by remembering Krishna, by carrying out Krishna's orders. Of course, Krishna is so kind, he comes in the temple, but we're not sitting all day in the temple. But we can serve the deity, whether we're in the temple or outside the temple. In fact, Prabhupada used to consider that those who went outside the temple were doing more service to the deity than those who were in the temple. He told us that you can leave one man in the temple to serve the deity, and all the others can go out and distribute books. Does that mean that he wanted only one man to get Krishna's association and everyone else to be out in the material world? Rather, it was a greater blessing to be able to go out and carry out that work of giving Krishna to others. Tasman manusheshu kashchin me priyatama. Traditionally, Thanksgiving is a traditional holiday. Traditionally, in Srila Prabhupada's movement, in December we put out special efforts to distribute more books. Because people are in the mood of giving, people are in the mood of buying, people are present in great numbers in that jolly mood of buying and giving and spending. So, of course, they'll spend their money on Jack Daniels, they'll spend their money on so many unnecessary things. So our mission is that you give a little of your money and you get this wonderful book which can change your whole life. And therefore, we established the tradition of using December to distribute as many books as possible. And devotees would go out, some of them would stay out to all hours of the night just to distribute a few more books. Enormous efforts, what we call a marathon. Marathon means you know it's only going to last this long, so you do as much as you can in that time. So that time is approaching, December is nearly upon us, and everyone can take part in that service of helping to distribute this transcendental wisdom. We have published so many books, Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srimad Bhagavatam, so many titles, and you can take some. Take a box, take 2 boxes, take however many. Distribute them to your friends, distribute them to your employees, distribute them to your co-workers, distribute them to your employer. If you're a student, distribute to your fellow students, distribute to your teachers, distribute to the people who do some service for you, distribute to the people at whose shops you do business. Here, there, and everywhere. Even go from house to house. In America, so many of us live in homes that we don't know who our neighbors are. We've never seen them. Or we see them, they get in their car, we see them, we wave. But we've never been in their home, we've never talked to them. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates used to go from door to door to distribute Krishna consciousness. You can do that also. Just go to the door, hi. And we brought this book. And some people will say, no, thank you. But some people will say yes. And how valuable that is, that after millions and millions of lifetimes, they get Krishna in the form of this transcendental book. So you can think about that, and those who are the organizers here can see to making some program by which as many of us as possible can take part. In Silicon Valley, where Vaisheshika Prabhu, my godbrother, has a center, even the dogs take part in the distribution. There's one family, they have a little dog, and they put like a little backpack on the dog, and put some books there, and people are so immediately attracted to this dog. What is this? So even the dog is engaged in distributing books. Prabhupada used to tell us to tax our brains. Just if that desire is there, to give someone, how can I distribute this book? How can I distribute the book? Take them and put them in your house, and so you're looking at them and you have to think, how will I distribute this book? And then this way, that way, this way, that way. So they're gone. Prabhupada told us that in the Brahmachari ashram, he said you should fill the ashram with books. So the brahmacharis have no place to sleep. And if they want to sleep, they have to distribute some books.
Actually, we did that. We did it in advance.
Excuse me?
We did that. Not about the kid. Remember? We used to load up a vehicle with boxes of books. So people would sleep on top of the books uncomfortably.
They sleep on top of the books in the van.
And then we got smart, right? What do? We built platforms. I just wanted to go to Javaji, came up with the idea. He's a nifty carpenter. So we began to store the books. But still the principle was there.
Principle is there. Indians typically, when they get a little money, they buy a big house. So fill your big house with books and distribute. And you'll have more fun than you can imagine. Right? Those who've had the experience of distributing these books, will testify that there's nothing as satisfying as distributing these books. It may be sometimes hard work, it sometimes may not go very well, it may sometimes go exceedingly well, but it's such a wonderful thing. And Krishna reciprocates. You feel that Krishna is helping me, Krishna is present. And you don't know who may take that book and what that may do to the person's life. How much benefit there is. Yes.
Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful class. You spoke about Yukta Vairagya, not getting attached, being satisfied, and using everything in Krishna's service. So sometimes we feel that we are giving a donation to the temple, we are maintaining a Krishna conscious family. So let me work hard materially, let me earn more money. And I'm ultimately using it for Krishna's service. Let me become more ambitious in my job and try to go up the career ladder. But sometimes while doing that, the glitter of materialism it gets to you and you get distracted. And you start thinking that I am the doer and you get attached to your achievements. So how to protect oneself from that?
And sometimes we think that I'm getting money from my job, I can give to Krishna. If I get a promotion, I can give more to Krishna. So let me improve my position. But then the danger is there that I may start to think that this is mine and I'm the proprietor and I'm accomplishing all this. So what to do about that? Therefore our program of sadhana is there. It's not that, first of all, of course, just by giving to Krishna, my heart becomes a little purified. But then, because the material world is a pretty dirty place, full of contamination and contagion, we need a strong means to keep the heart pure. Therefore this kirtan is there. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As much as possible, you can come to the temple and join in the kirtan, or else at home, do the same thing. Why waste your evening watching a television? So exposing yourself to what people want to expose you to so that they'll make a profit from you. Chant Hare Krishna and read something. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, a page, 2 pages, 3 pages. You'll see how your life becomes benefited. Well, the same thing. And this japa, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Take the association with all of these things that are described: worshipping Tulsi, chanting Hare Krishna, keeping the association of devotees, worshipping the deity, hearing, chanting Srimad Bhagavatam, making your place of residence like Vrindavan. And if you follow this principle, then it doesn't matter whether you're in household life or brahmachari life. Kriyete manete tattva avaram solena. And everyone chants the holy name of the Lord can attain perfection. And at the mature stage also know that you should give up this work. This business of work and family maintenance, this is for some period. Just like education, we're encouraging our children to go to school and become educated up to a certain point. It's not that when they're 30 or 40 they should still be going to school. Up to the age of maybe 20, 25, then school. And the next thing is, all right, when you're getting married and family life and all of that. Then there's a third stage, getting out of family life. One is not advised to stay in the life of hard work for material advancement throughout one's life. There's retirement, and even outside of Krishna consciousness there's retirement, but they misuse it for fishing and so many things. But for the Krishna conscious person, retirement means the opportunity for further spiritual advancement. Husband and wife may go to holy places, they may go to live in Vrindavan, or they may in so many ways render service. So we can build up, but we should know that eventually I'll have to hand it over. I'll have to hand it over whether I like it or not, because death will come and take it all away. So the wise course of action is to give it up before that point comes, rather than be dragged out kicking and screaming. Voluntarily hand it over and enter the next stage of life. That's called power consumption. And sannyas may also be there. And that's another opportunity to do good for others, because while working, my time is monopolized by my work. Household Dolores says I have so little time. But retirement is the opportunity. I can read, I can chant, I can go out and distribute Krishna consciousness to others. That's the real action. Mm-hmm. Oh, you had a question.
Yeah.
Sir. Mm-hmm.
I get that distributing books is a good thing, but
Excuse me?
why not distribute like clothes and food to people who need?
Distributing books is a good thing, but why not distribute clothes and food to people? Because there's lots of other people to distribute clothes and food. The whole world is full of organizations to distribute clothes and food. And what do the clothes and food help?
The people who need?
Not really. Superficially, yes. But it doesn't meet their greatest need. I gave the example of the bird in the cage. So why not clean the cage very nicely? Cages need cleaning. Why shouldn't I help clean the cage? But what about the bird? America's full of people who have clothes. Some of them, like a lawyer, if he goes into court, what he's wearing costs not less than $2,000. No, one of my lawyer friends was telling me to be respectably dressed in court. $2,000 is like about the minimum. That's probably secondhand. You go into a house in America and they have a closet, and what's in the closet? Big wardrobe of clothes. Not one pair of shoes, but 20 pairs of shoes. Not one sweater, but 10 sweaters. And still they're not happy. Am I wrong? Are they very happy? Is their life successful because in their closet they have lots of shoes and sweaters? What do you think? Kind of. I think you're right. They're kind of happy. And kind of happy means kind of unhappy. If you ask me, how are you happy? I say, well, kind of. That means kind of not happy. Like if I said, I'm giving you some nice kheer. So that's very good. But I'm going to add, along with the sugar and the ghee and the rice and milk, I'm going to add a little teaspoon of sand. So how nice is it now? Not even kind of. But that's how people are living. Why are they drinking liquor? Why are they eating all rubbish things? Why are they spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on the internet? Because their happiness is kind of happiness. Which means they're not satisfied, because no matter how much you give for the body and the mind, the soul will not be happy. The soul will not be happy until he realizes who he is and revives his eternal relationship with Krishna. Even, consider, I think I'm happy. You ask me how happy I am. I'm not kind of happy. I'm happy. Then I have to die. And then I have to come back in another body. It may be a human body, a dog body, a tree body, any body. How good is that? And if I only see to your getting some clothes and food, I haven't solved that problem. And that's the big problem, whether the rich man or the poor man, everyone has that problem. Prabhupada gave a story. Ready? There was a man with his friends walking on the seashore. And they saw someone drowning. And so this man, who was like the hero of the group, he dove into the water, swam out, caught up with the man, grabbed his shirt and coat, and came back to the shore. You think it was very smart? He served he's.
Is it better to bring him back naked without clothes?
Absolutely. I mean, what would you, if you were drowning, what would you rather me do? Come back to the shore with your shirt and coat, or bring you back naked? Might be a little embarrassing, but you'd be alive. But people think that the real service is to save the shirt and coat of the drowning man. This body is like a shirt or coat. And people are doing service to save the body, to meet the needs of the body. And meanwhile, the person himself drowns in the ocean of birth and death. So this welfare work, food, clothing, that's small and superficial. It only meets the outside needs. And the real need, it doesn't touch. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya is glorified as the greatest welfare worker. Vedyam Vastavam Atravastu Shivana. The Srimad Bhagavatam is giving the real benefit that we need. To get a little food, I mean, if I give you a choice, I'll give you some food or I'll give you freedom from birth and death. Which is a bigger gift? Which do you think is a bigger gift? That I'll give you food, or I'll arrange so that you never die. Never die. So that's why we're not just in the food business or clothing business. We're giving a greater gift. The gift of eternal existence, free from birth and death. There's lots of other organizations for giving food, for giving clothing, but they're not doing this work, so why should we do their work? Become the greatest welfare worker. Something else?
This is really not very sophisticated. This is really just...
Whatever the sophisticated Why are the deities wearing black today? That is a question for the pujaris. I don't think it has symbolic meaning though. They're not in mourning. Otherwise they wouldn't have garlands and gold. As far as I know, it's just an attractive, one more of their attractive outfits. They have black ones and green ones and yellow ones. And today is Black Day. Is that okay? An unsophisticated answer for an unsophisticated question? Okay. Anything else? Yes.
Very nice. But I have a question. This very like a Akaki Amar Naipai wall. How
What is that?
I am so alone. How I can do so wonderful things like a Akaki Amar Naipai wall. How I can get strength from like only any one senses I like Krishna consciousness, but another like other 6 of them they said no, you don't have to go. Enjoy. But how I can
speak in Bengali and let me one of the other voice.
আমি বলছি যে একাকী আমার নাই পায় বল how I can get a strength
Bangla. I can understand, he'll understand Bengali better and I'll understand his English better. So you speak in Bengali.
আমি কি করে এই ভালো জিনিসটাকে কৃষ্ণ কনসাসটাকে আমি গ্রহণ করব কারণ আমি একা আমি খুব দুর্বল আমি বুঝতে পারলো করতে পারছি না কি করে আমি এটাই আমি অংশগ্রহণ করতে পারবো খুব বাধা বিঘ্ন
So he's saying that he feels that he is alone. So there are too many obstacles and so many distractions and temptations. So how do I get the strength to do these things?
When we're feeling alone, we should remember we should associate with devotees and dedicate ourselves to the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master. Therefore, Tandera Charana Shevi, Bhakta Shvane Bhash. What is that? Bhakta Shvane Bhash? Janame, or Eyavi Bhash. This should be our program. Then we won't feel alone. We should dedicate ourselves to the service of the bona fide spiritual master and keep the association of the devotees. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we stop here? Thank you all.
Hare Krishna Hare
That's it?
Thank you.